We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
Hello, everyone. We're back with the One Story Podcast. My name is Drew, and I'm with my friend Isaac.
What's up, buddy?
Oh, we're doing good here. It's episode 21. We're happy to be here. How are you feeling tonight?
Fantastic. I had an amazing week. I started it off with a 3-day fast that we did with the church, the Southlands. It was like a whole church fast, and that was the first time I ever did a fast. So it was, it was hard, but it wasn't as bad because I thought it was going to be impossible. So by day 2, I was like, it's not as bad, but it was good because I was able to reflect during those times of like when I was like hungry, and really kind of just being uncomfortable. I was able to kind of just realize that at any point during that fast, I could have eaten something, and just really kind of
taken away the pain or the hunger.
And what I kind of realized in that was that I had that choice. I could have done something about it, but then knowing that there's people out there that can't relieve their pain, that they're in the midst of something that's
whatever suffering they're going through.
Yeah, and they can't relieve it. And right. I really kind of my heart kind of just kind of broke for all that's going on in this world. And kind of really just leaning on God and really saying, all right, God, use me to reach these people somehow. And actually, I think we had been texting. I was like kind of pumped up about our podcast. I was like, this is it. This is what God's put, in front of me. That's what this is what He's using as a tool for me and you, but for me to share the gospel and share the good news of Jesus and just all the good work that he can do and will do. So it was good.
I'm glad that you put me a part of that. Thanks.
You wouldn't have done it anyway.
No, exactly.
Well, if you would have went to church, you would have known that we were doing a 3-day fast.
Yeah. So anyways,
I love how I always I give you a hard time about that. No, Drew's he's a Southlander, just in secret. He doesn't want to let his wife know.
We'll see. But no, that's a good point. And, not that, I think we kind of talked about, not that you walk around being a, Debbie Downer, that we're always, depressed or down because the weight of the world is on us, but it's good to think about, the people out there that are suffering. If you're, and we're all going to go through suffering. It's guaranteed in life, one, in some shape or form, but the hope that we have as Christ followers is just that. We have hope in Christ that He's walking with us through the suffering, and that there's something on the other side. There's something that we're getting shaped through it, or the ultimate consolation is beyond this life is, to share eternity with Him. Yeah, and that's the overall thing that you can kind of think about while going through suffering. Which again, it's its own beast, and when you're in it, it's hard to see any kind of light or any kind of
Yeah, it sucks because sometimes I think that when things are going, you hear about people's situations or even stuff you see on the news or whatever, and you're just like, man, this sucks, but you kind of have to Lord, this is why I have you, and I just can't wait until this is over with in a way. I mean, it kind of sounds like a little morbid maybe, but it really isn't. When you have God and you're excited, to get through this life and kind of
but it's not get through this life, because we're called to be here. If it was just
that's a good point.
Not just be taken out of
Thanks
here.
for crapping on my point.
No,
I'm just kidding. No, you're right.
Because some people have that, not to get off topic, but some people have that attitude of I'm just, just get to the end.
No. But just that hope for
we're here to
be with God is
and to spread
what I
hope
was
for
trying to
people
say.
that don't have it, and hopefully be a light to them
For
through
sure.
God.
I'll just edit that part out when I start rambling.
Exactly. You handle the editing, so it'll be good. So yeah, other than that, it's been a good week. We like to thank you who's listening, everyone out there that's tuning in and sharing it, hopefully with friends. We'd ask that. I think we do it almost every week. But if this is something that you enjoy, that you like, that you really feel like is something important in this podcast, then we'd ask that you would, share it with friends, whether on social media or just, word of mouth type thing. We would appreciate that.
Or just grab people's phones and just go ahead.
Put this on your phone. Listen to it. Put an alarm on their phone every Monday.
That's what I do. I just
on.
grab people. Let me see your phone real quick. So
with that, we have a special guest tonight. Our guest is Natasha Achong. Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for being with us tonight. I appreciate it. I know you had a long drive from work all the way in Calabasas.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's like, what would you call it? Like the West LA? Well, it's not even West LA.
I don't even know. I'm from Hawaii. I don't know.
Ventura County. It's out there. Well, we're in Chino right now, recording out of Southlands Chino in Calabasas.
That's a long hike. You get to enjoy the wonderful freeways of Southern California, which if you're not from here, it's beautiful. It's a lot of red.
I love
and
my drive.
White lights. Do you?
In the morning, I do.
Yeah.
It's really peaceful. It's dark. It's quiet. It takes me like an hour and a half. But in the afternoon, it's like a 2.5 hour drive to come home in the afternoon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's
intense.
It is, but
But
thank God for music.
Oh, you were saying that
you just
listen
put
to
on the
worship
music.
Yeah.
Worship music, whatever music.
And the
gets
One
you
Story
going
podcast too, right?
And keeps you awake. That's what you put on.
yeah.
Yes, and the podcast.
That might put you to sleep, so you gotta be careful there.
Depends what story you're listening to.
Right.
If you're listening to episode 19, what was your 17?
Mine 17 and 18.
Yeah, that might be
that's a
snoozer.
Yeah,
That's the one you put on when you
if
go
you're
to
trying
sleep.
to go to sleep. Put on Drew's episodes. Cuba too will help you
It
out.
took a while to get started, but once you got going,
Yeah, the train. Exactly.
So John Vallejo recommended
Vallejo.
Vallejo.
I always say it that way too.
Recommended you to us, and so we reached out and were able to get you out here.
Yeah, John. I know John and his wife Liz from Camp Agape, California, which actually started from Camp Agape, Hawaii. So one of the pastors at my church back in Hawaii, New Hope, Oahu, Pastor Roy Yamamoto, he was our prison ministry pastor who had a life sentence and was set free by the grace of God. And so being separated from his daughter motivated him to start this camp. So in Hawaii, it's over Labor Day weekend. There's 4 days. And it's for children whose parents are incarcerated. They have either one or both parents incarcerated. It costs about $150,000 to do this camp. So they're as soon as camp ends, boom, they're fundraising again
For the next year. Because everything's paid for the kids.
Right.
I mean, for the camp.
They literally come with the clothes on their and the shoes on their feet, and we supply everything.
It's awesome.
Journals, Bibles, backpacks, pencils, pens, all the hygienic products, backpacks, sleeping bags, all the meals, and then there's like about 300 volunteers that need to be fed and
Just
housed as
volunteers.
well.
Right. Yeah.
And so we bring them to camp, and there's a theme every day. So the first day is trust. The second day is love. The third day is forgiveness. And we always end with hope and give the children a chance to say yes to Jesus. And so this year is going to be the 13th year that it's been in Hawaii. And it's so funny because I was volunteering there. I volunteered there for 6 years. And the year that I took a break was the year that John and Liz went up and volunteered.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you missed each other when you were there?
But we missed each other completely. But they came back to California all gung-ho about it. And they decided to start Camp Agape California, which last year was our first year. We're going to have our second year this Memorial Day weekend. And actually, Camp Agape went from Oahu to Maui to Kauai to the Big Island. We have 2 in Oregon. There's 1 in Arkansas.
That's awesome.
And it's just, spreading. And it's amazing. It's an amazing camp. You literally see these kids transform. You know, they come guarded with walls. They don't want to be there. They were forced to come.
Right.
This is so stupid. You know, who's Jesus and all this stuff. And by the time, not even by the time Monday rolls around, it's like by Saturday night, these kids are on fire for the Lord. And just to see them come and have a taste of the freedom and the hope that Jesus gives to them, it's amazing, and it is such hard work. You're looking at me. I'm a heavy set woman. My feet are like bricks at the end of every night. At the end of camp, I literally have to take off on Tuesday because I feel like I got hit by a freight train.
Right.
But every year when it rolls around, you just can't say no because it's so amazing.
Yeah.
In fact, Rachel Lampa came out one year to Rachel Lampa is a really famous worship singer, and she came out. Her and her husband came out one year. The Katinas came out on Oahu. So
Right.
It's just an amazing camp.
Yeah.
If you want more information, www.campagapecalifornia.com.
Yes, for sure. And for those listening, if you're listening to this episode and you haven't heard episode 11, that is with John, and he kind of goes over a little bit more detail into the camp, but exactly what you're saying, just kind of echoing that, of just how great of a ministry it is, and whether you're volunteering your time or money or, you know, donating that, like if you guys are listening, it's definitely something to pour into because those kids need it. You know, lives are being changed.
So that's awesome. Thanks for all the work that you do and that you've been doing.
It's an honor. It really is. Awesome. Yeah. And I'll get back to how I got there. Right.
So let's do that. Let's take us back over the Pacific.
So, you know, I grew up on Oahu, which is the island where Waikiki and Diamond Head is at, Pearl Harbor. I mostly grew up there. And I also spent some years living on the Big Island of Hawaii, where the volcano is erupting right now. I had a very poor upbringing, single mom with eventually 6 children. When I was in kindergarten, there was just 3 of us. My mom was a party animal. She was a drug addict. She was a drug dealer. She was heavily involved in the syndicate world in Hawaii. My uncle was kind of like, who was her first cousin, was like John Gotti of Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So, and she was the only woman allowed in his circle. So my mom was very, had a lot of dark things about her. She was very frustrated. She was very, and a lot of, my mom was gorgeous. She still is, drop dead gorgeous. So needless to say, there were a lot of men in her life, and a lot of these men would just beat the living daylights out of her. I mean, we actually grew up, me and my oldest sister grew up being taken care of by my grandma and my grandpa, Momo. They raised us from the time we were born. And so for the first 5 years, we had a beautiful family living with grandma and grandpa. He was in the Navy, and but then he got transferred to Puerto Rico. And my mom didn't allow them to take us, and that's kind of when the hell started. And so
so what was that like, living with your grandparents, and then were they, because they seems like they were more like the mother father figure, and then them leaving, was that hard? It
was just, I mean, I remember that night. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was very, very traumatic. It was very sad. I knew that my life was going to flip upside down. And the beauty of it is, when I look back, you know, I think about a lot of children that grow up in ghettos, that grow up in, you know, and they never get out of the ghetto. You know what I mean? They don't know that there's another world out there.
That's funny. I mean,
they don't know that there's something better. Growing up with my grandma and grandpa gave me the knowledge that there's something better. And then I know that there's such a thing as a functional family, because I had it. You know what I mean? And I lost it. And I would watch TV. I would watch Brady Bunch. I would watch all of these TV shows wishing that I had a family like that. And I just didn't. I had a very frustrated mother who would just beat us up. There was no CPS when I was growing up. We went to school with black eyes. We went to school with welts. We went to, and me and my oldest sister, we did everything for her. I mean, my grandparents trained us, so we knew how to scrub toilets. We knew how to clean a house from top to bottom from the time I was 5 years old. She would, leave us home alone with my little sister who was 9 months old, and people would come over and steal from us. And then next thing you know, she's beating them up in our front yard because they stole from us. And
Wow.
I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy life.
What was your neighborhood like? Was it, I've never been to Hawaii. I think you have, but I've never been. I've seen some of it. Like I used to watch Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. There's a rough.
So when you were living with your mom, what kind of neighborhood was it?
Well, the neighborhood that I lived in when I was growing up with my mom is way better than it is now. That side of the island, the west side of the island, is notorious for crimes, for meth, for a lot of homeless people, a lot of drugs, and what have you. And I feel bad because a lot of military people that get transferred to Hawaii, they see the cheap rent and they go and they
to that side
they
of the
go and rent
island.
up, and next thing they realize it's not a good side of the island. It is beautiful and it is what it is. But it was, my mom was with all the party animals and stuff, and very frequently the party was at our house. So for me, because I had such a negative household, basically, and because we were raised by our grandparents, me and my older sister, we were very bright, and so I kind of threw myself into education. Like the attention that I craved from my mom, the positive reinforcement, the encouraging words, all of that came from my teachers. And from the time, as far back as I can remember, I never had homework because I finished it all. I was like the teacher's aide. You know what I mean? It was like two separate worlds I lived in. Everything was perfect here at school, and then I would go home and everything was ugly and scary.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So mind you, our neighbors right next door, this is a crazy family. Crazy family, but
It's bad when your mom's beating people up in the front yard, but the neighbors are crazy.
yeah. Well, we were crazy too. But so she had a bunch of boys and she had a little girl. The little girl was about the same age as me and my oldest sister. And every once in a blue moon, my mom would have a good moment and allow us to either go over to their house and play with them, or they were going to the drive-in movies. I remember her taking us to the drive-in theater to watch Jaws.
Nice.
And we got to
That must
sit
have
on.
been intense watching Jaws when you're living on the island. You're
That's how bad home was. It's like, Jaws? Sure, let's go.
Take the kids.
Yeah. But one of the most beautiful things was she was taking her kids to Vacation Bible School. And she had come over to our house and said, "Hey, Pooh, you want me to take your kids with my kids to Vacation Bible School?" I was 6 years old at the time. So she allowed us to go, and I will never, ever forget that night, because that's when I said yes to Jesus. I knew that it was the right thing to do. And mind you, I forgot to tell you, my grandma and grandpa were Buddhists. We grew up watching them chant and do all this kind of stuff. But something inside of me, like I never went there with them, because something inside of me was like, no, this isn't right, So
where did they get into Buddhism?
Yeah.
How?
The funny thing is, my mom actually introduced them to it. My mom, growing up with my mom, I remember being on a hippie commune with my mom. I remember being around Hare Krishnas with my mom. I remember it was the 60s, and they were all that searching and love and peace and stuff, and lots of drugs, which is why my grandma and grandpa, took us. And so, I kind of went through my childhood very afraid of my mom. I hated her. I resented her, for the horrible life that we had. She ended up with my stepdad, which is who me and my oldest sister are from my dad and her high school sweetheart. And then my little sister and my 3 little brothers are from my stepdad. And she ended up marrying him. And right after she married him, he robbed some old man and ended up in prison on the Big Island. And this prison is like 27 miles up the volcano. Okay, it's on the top of a mountain. And we're like dirt poor. We don't even have money for food, let alone gas. But, you know, she did whatever she had to. She moved us from Oahu to the Big Island so that we could be closer to him, so that she could visit him every week. And that was our childhood. Our childhood was getting beaten up by her all week, going to school all week, and then going to prison on the weekends, every Saturday and Sunday. We had no childhood. It was all about this man who would later on come out of prison and end up fooling around on her. And, you know, it was just horrible.
Just not a good situation.
Absolutely horrendous, okay?
And like you were saying, you had saw what could be a stable family from what you had with your grandparents, and then, but you're stuck in this chaotic world that's around you.
So the thing is, I grew up absolutely hating prisons, period. And, I actually ended up marrying a prison guard. Well, I married this guy and he later on became a prison guard. Okay.
Better than a prisoner.
Right. And so now I ended up living on the Big Island. I did it myself. I sent in the paperwork and everything without my mom even knowing. And I applied for this private school, the Kamehameha schools. And it's a private school for Native Hawaiian children. Everybody wants their kid to go to this school.
For high school?
No, it's from kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It is secondary. It's college prep, and the annual tuition is like $20,000 a year. But because the school was founded by a princess, a Hawaiian princess, all of her will went to build this school. So really, you only pay $1,600 a year, and if you're poor, you pay nothing.
Okay.
You get scholarshiped.
If you can get in.
So I got in. I got in 7th grade and 8th grade. So I had to board from the Big Island to Oahu. They flew me, and I had to board 7th and 8th grade. And 7th grade was the most horrible. I wouldn't wish it on Satan himself. The year that I experienced at this school, I was extremely bullied. I was the most unpopular child in that entire 7th and 8th grade. I was bullied by everybody. And then, not that my mom would have comforted me when I went home because of the way she is, but you can't escape it because you live with the bullies. You're with them 24 hours a day. Okay.
So there's no break.
They know,
it's terrible.
They know that, I was the last girl to develop. Everybody teased me because I didn't wear a bra. Everybody teased me because I was poor. I was dirt poor. Everybody, you could tell because the school didn't have uniforms. Now the school has uniforms, okay? Because they finally, realize there's kids getting bullied because they don't have nice clothes. And that's just the way it is. There's the really rich kids and there's the really poor kids. Right. But, we all went through the testing, and you take this SAT test, you do a face-to-face interview, and then they pick who they want to come to the school.
Was it co-ed or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
you were trying to escape the home,
right?
And trying to go to the. You were saying that was the school as your escape. That was the place where everything was good and in order, and you were excelling. And then
as bad as it was,
and that's powerful. That's. You took the step to apply and really try to get in, and you got in. Yeah. So that must have been very disappointing. That must have been.
As bad as it was still better than being home. But I also dealt with the guilt because my sister didn't get in. My oldest sister didn't get in, and she was stuck at home with my mom and the 4 little brothers and sisters, holding it down. And I really felt guilty about that, but. So I ended up graduating, from this high school. This school is built on a lot of Hawaiian traditions. And one of the traditions that we have every year is called Song Contest. It's a cappella contest. And actually,
I love a cappella music.
It's Hawaiian choral music, and it is intense. Like, we go through 3 to 4 months of intense rehearsals, and then it's the Friday of spring, right before spring break, and all of the high school classes come together and we all compete. And I mean, it's intense.
Wow.
And that they purposely do it right before the spring break, because if there's school on Monday, like everybody would be fighting with each other because, you know,
How
it's
competitive
intense.
it is.
Yeah, it's very competitive. But, you know, I look back on all of these years, even as a little child, I remember music. Like, music is a gift from God. I thank God for music, you know. And that's one thing that my mom inspired me. My mom inspired me with her musical taste, you know, the Guess Who, Shaka Khan, Marvin Gaye. I mean, all of the music of the 60s. Okay. And then as children, me and my oldest sister, like whenever my mom would beat us up or whatever, you know, teenagers are always into music, but music was our therapy. You know, we could go to our room, we could slam the door after my mom beat us up, and we could turn on the radio and just sing our blues away, you know? And I never realized it until later on, but it's like, duh. There's 150 songs like right in the middle of the Bible. That's like the hugest clue from God, you know? And
what was your jam then during that time?
There's so many songs. I'll tell you, you know what's a funny song is? And God blessed me. I honestly believe that God knew exactly when to allow me to become a mother, because my daughter was born in 91. And because I was so afraid, because growing up, the children learn what they live and they become what they live. Okay. It felt completely weird for me to hug my child. It felt fake.
Because you never
for
had
me
that.
to encourage her and say, "Good job, Sienna." Like that's like so fake. You know what I mean? Like, you just cringe because it's fake. You know.
Well,
so what
that's
God
the way you
blessed
felt.
me? God blessed me with Barney. I kid you not. My children know how much I love Barney. I love that dinosaur because I kid you not, like he would hug the kids and he would encourage them with his words.
Yeah.
I remember watching this one episode where Kathy was like, "Barney, Bobby's telling me I can't be a construction worker when I grow up because that's only for boys." And in my mind, I went, "Well, duh, Kathy. Of course that's only for boys. You're an idiot if you think you want to become a construction worker." But instead, Barney was like, "Oh, Kathy, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up." And the music, because let me tell you, I have walked some dark roads. And this song from Barney always, it can be pitch black. It can be the scariest road with all of those spooky looking trees that have no leaves on them. "Oh, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, hiding behind a tree." I know all the dance moves too. Okay, I know them all.
No, you know what's funny is where people will bring up music. I'll be like, "Go ahead and give us get a little taste," and you were the first one to do it. So I love
sing.
it. I didn't even have to ask. I love that.
So it's a children's show, but it showed you almost how to be a mom to your kids.
He taught me how to be a mom
because you didn't have
how to be a loving mom,
right? How to show love.
That
I
it
know
was
how,
okay. Making it okay.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because at first, you saying that, I'm thinking, honestly, I'm thinking like kind of laughing in my head, like, okay, Barney. But I mean, that makes so much sense.
I'm drop dead serious.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I love Barney.
So that's
that
how
was
I would
one of my.
That's how I would copy him.
Right.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. And so now, mind you, the prison guard, right? I married him. I had my daughter in 91 here in San Diego. I actually met him here in San Diego after I went to college. And actually, I got to rewind a bit because right after high school, in high school, I actually successfully auditioned for Concert Glee. So I was a soloist, but because my mom was just lost, we're going on this huge European tour that I'm supposed to be the soloist in the competition, and I end up not being able to go because my mom never took me to get my passport. So bummers. And then my grandparents came to watch me graduate. I went back with them only to find out that I was pregnant. I was 18 years old and I was pregnant from a one night stand. Never going to see this guy ever again. Okay. And I didn't know what to do. I was afraid to tell my grandma. I was afraid to tell my mom. And I ended up having an abortion. Okay. So I'm 18 years old. I'm living with my grandma and grandpa. I get up there only to find out their marriage is on the rocks. They've been married for 25 years.
Jeez.
And their marriage is falling apart. They're like fighting all the time. Okay. And then they're Buddhists. And the only other people that live with us is my auntie and my cousins who are like 3rd and 4th grade. I know nobody. I'm like completely isolated. And I'm addicted to cocaine because from Valentine's Day, my senior year, I started stealing dope from my mom just to stick it to her. I used to give it to my friends, but then I started using it. And so I'm an addict. I'm pregnant. I'm isolated. I have no clue what I'm going to do with my life. I have this abortion. And literally right after it's done, something snaps. And I'm like, gone. Okay. I literally did not sleep or eat for a month and a half straight.
What?
For a month and a half straight. Could not stop talking. It was to the point where nobody wanted me around. My grandma and grandpa them didn't want me around. Nobody knew what to do with me. I couldn't stop talking about the baby.
Real quick. So when you gave your life to God at 6 years old, what role did God have in your life up until this point?
So to me,
Because were you guys going to church at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Was there even churches?
there was a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall behind my house.
There was no churches though.
I just knew what I knew from what I could feel inside of me, from what little my mom told me. And the thing was, that's how I know the importance of a parent in a child's life. I mean, that child can say yes to Jesus, but if they're not being purposely shepherded by their parents in the way that they should go, I mean, it's like you shared in your testimony, you're just going to go off the deep end. We're like cars that are naturally out of alignment. Okay, if you just let it go, it's eventually gonna go into the ditch without somebody grabbing that wheel to correct it.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So the thing was, I knew in my heart, I mean, we had Bibles. Me and my sister would read it. We knew John 3:16. We knew the 10 Commandments, and we knew that we were sinners because we pretty much broke most of the 10 Commandments. I mean, to me, God was like the God that you see in cartoons. He was that old man up in the sky on his throne, and he saw everything that I did that was wrong, and I was a huge disappointment to him. And so it got to the point where you have to turn it off. Because if not, you're going to be consumed by your guilt. It's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do whatever the heck I want because I'm damned. I'm definitely damned.
I can't do anything right. So
nobody taught me about the grace.
Right.
Nobody taught me about being covered by the blood. None of that.
You weren't hearing any of the truths of the scripture. It was just what you started, or whatever you had what you thought in your mind.
The only knowledge that you had.
Right.
That's all you.
Of what God was.
Yeah.
Not love. He was just some, taskmaster in the sky that was
judging you.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
this point in your life where you feel like you're
that month and a half
gone.
Oh, I was gone. I ended up in 3 mental institutions. I ended up my grandma called the cops on me. I ended up in San Diego, and then they sent me home to Hawaii for a little bit.
Do you remember
I remember it all.
Everything.
And it's like when you're a puppet on a string. You have no control over what you're doing, but you can see it all. And and you're helpless. There's nothing that you can do to help yourself, And once I came out of it, it was very embarrassing because everybody saw all the things that I did, the craziness, the crazy pretty girl walking on the street barefooted, and everybody's going, "What happened?" That was me. Okay, mumbling to yourself.
How did you get out of it?
Okay, so I actually chased down some Jehovah's Witnesses one day. Okay. And I pointed to my grandma's house. I said, I live over there. I need help. And they came. Okay. And they started studying the Bible with me. And, the word of God is what healed me. Okay. A lot of people make the mistake of trying to heal mental illness. There were people praying for me. Okay. And that's how I got better. I got better by reading.
The J-Dubs were praying for you?
No, my family was praying for me.
They knew Jesus too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there was a lot of my family members. But by reading God's word, that's how I got better.
Okay.
I didn't trust the Jehovah's Witness Bible. Then so I used my own. And let me tell you, I have had to defend them. I am ashamed to say I've had to defend Jehovah's Witnesses.
Why are you ashamed?
Because I don't understand why people dog on them. They're doing what people call them cults, this, that, and this. Yes, I'm no longer a Jehovah's Witness, but it's because God directed my steps.
Were you in the Jehovah's?
I ended up becoming baptized. Everything.
Okay.
And I have to defend them from people at my home church in Hawaii that call them cults and da 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 da. And I'm like, did you study with them? Were you a baptized Jehovah's Witness? Because if not, you need to be quiet. Because you have no clue what you're talking about. And it's very ignorant of us to judge the different sects of Christianity.
How'd you leave that church or what?
So what happened was I got better, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm better now. I don't need them anymore, right? And I started becoming a party animal. I would go to Tijuana all the time and stuff like that. But long story short, I ended up meeting my husband in San Diego. He's from Hawaii too. And then my daughter was born, and then we moved back home to Hawaii. And then my son was born. And when my son was born, I was very afraid of myself. With my upbringing, I could feel the tendency in me to want to just snap and beat the living daylights out of my kids. And you know what I mean? Because that's what I knew.
What you were taught.
Yeah.
That's what I was taught. So I had to, I knew that I needed some kind of spiritual food. And so that's what I did. I became a baptized Jehovah's Witness. My ex-husband, God bless him. He was like the perfect partner for me. I mean, if I wasn't around and my daughter went up to him and said, "Oh, mommy said I could have ice cream," he knew I didn't. We had the perfect team.
I'm opposite.
Okay.
My daughter would be like, "Mommy said I can't have ice cream." I'm like, it's okay, you can.
No. So anyway, long story short, I would have bet both of my children's lives on this. Okay. I would have never, ever, ever, ever thought that I would have had an affair on my husband. And I did. He was working long nights. He was working 16-hour shifts. I was, home by myself. He isn't the most romantic person in the world to begin with, but I knew that going into it, can't use that as an excuse. And I ended up having an affair. So, that brought out the ugliest monster that I never knew existed in my husband. I literally was like a prisoner in my house. For 4 years, I did everything to try and save my marriage. And he clocked me every day for 4 years. Because he started work at 6. I didn't start work till 8:30. And my daughter ended up getting into my private school, which is in town. And we lived on the east side of the island. So I would have to call him right before I left home. I would drop off my daughter, drop off my nephew. As soon as I got to work, I would have to call him. I would have to call him right before I logged into my phone. I would have to call him right when my first break started, right when it ended, right when my lunch started, when it ended. By my second break, he was there. He spent my whole break with me. I would call him right before I left work. If I stopped anywhere, I would have receipts that had a timestamp on it. And it was like that every single day of my life. And it was hell. It was absolute hell.
What kept him from leaving?
I have no idea. We were living in his mom and dad's house with mom and dad. We were upstairs. Mom and dad were downstairs, and he could have, kicked me out. I'm like, if I'm that bad of a person, like, why are you with me? Why do you want me with you? You know? And I made plans to, well, I actually got him to agree to come and study the Bible with some elders at the Jehovah's Witness. But he would pick apart, he would take the scriptures that he wanted to torture me with and say, see, look, it says this and this and you, but he wouldn't see all the things that he was doing to me, you know? So when that didn't work, I kind of knew that nothing was going to work. If God doesn't help you, like, I don't know what's going to help you. And I finally got to the point, like, I tolerated it. I would try to pacify him as much as possible. And then it finally got to the point where it was like, you know what? I asked God to forgive me and he forgave me. And I don't need this. I don't need this anymore. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking, but the Bible says God hates a divorce. God hates a divorce. Yes, God hates a divorce. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. We live in a fallen world.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not like you're going to be condemned because if you did get a divorce, you know. So
for 4 years, I did my utmost to try and save my marriage, to try and keep my family together. All the while, he's like kicking me. He's torturing me all night. I don't get any sleep at all. He's like kicking me under the sheets, and he has all these nightmares. So if he can't sleep, I can't sleep. And so I made plans to leave him. I was going to leave during Christmas break, and my counselor at work, you know, we had the employee assistant program. She said, no, don't do that. Your kids are going to forever, for the rest of their life, hate Christmas. They're probably going to end up becoming alcoholics, and you know, because Christmas is going to be the time when mommy and daddy split up. So my plan was to leave during spring break. Okay. And that'd
have been a good time to leave. So when spring break came, we're like,
right,
this is not good. Let's just stay in, not go party with everybody else.
So I was getting ready to leave him, and I found out I was pregnant.
Oh.
And I was like, what? I literally looked up to the heavens and screamed at the top of my lungs to God. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know? And then after I was done screaming, he's like, are you done? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's going to turn around in 9 months. Maybe that's what you're saying. Maybe something's going to happen in 9 months, you know, because I'm not aborting this kid. We've been through that crazy ride already. Okay. So 3 months into my pregnancy, I go to get an ultrasound. And I've been to ultrasounds. I know how it goes. The nurse is looking at it, or the LPN or whatever. Then she calls in the nurse. Then they call in the doctor, and I'm like, what's going on? So then the doctor looks at me. He turns the screen around. He's like, do you see what's wrong here? And I go, yeah, there's just a black circle. There's no baby in there. And they go, are you bleeding? Like, did you, lose the baby? And I go, no. And they go, well, if you haven't lost it, you're probably going to lose it within the next week or so. So my doctor told me, I told him, look, he's like, look, we can go in, we can do the procedure now. I told him, just in case it went for a swim or something, I want to wait. And he goes, well, we can only wait 1 week, because if you wait beyond that, you're going to end up hemorrhaging and you're going to bleed to death. Oh. So I kid you not, 1 week to the day, I started bleeding and I went into the hospital. And when I woke up from having my surgery, I felt this peace come over me. And it was like the Lord telling me, you know what? I know you tried, Natasha. I know you tried everything. And this was the one thing that was keeping you from leaving. And now you're free to go. You know what I mean? And I ended up leaving. So I came home one day to find all of my stuff in trash bags in the front yard. And he refused to let me take the kids. So I got kicked out of my house.
Wait, why did he? Because was it because you lost the baby?
No, this actually happened several months later that he kicked me out. Okay. It's like, I guess he couldn't take it anymore, and he just wanted me out of the house, even though the very next day he begged me to come back, but that's another story.
You're already out.
Yeah. So
how old were the kids at that time?
My daughter was like 5th grade and my son was 3rd grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up from there, my grandma died, and that just devastated me. and then I lost my job because he would be harassing me at work all the time.
Oh my gosh.
On the phone, showing up over there, and then that's when one of my cousins introduced me to meth. Okay, and it just went. I mean, it took about a year, but it got really bad. I ended up leaving, and I moved to the Big Island.
Were you doing anything up until that point? Like any kind of
both of us were smoking marijuana at one point. That's the only way we could stay around each other is by smoking marijuana, because we had the giggles, and that's the only way we could be around each other. He ended up getting busted on a random drug test at the prison, and then he had to go to AA and all this stuff. And of course, he blamed me.
And he didn't get fired.
He didn't get fired.
Wow.
But he's still there, by the way.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, so I end up moving to the Big Island to get away from him, because no matter where I go, he would find me and he would harass me, like showing up all drunk at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And my addiction just went from bad to worse, to the point where now, because I'm on mind-altering substances and I have my spiritual gift, I mean, all I saw was demons. I could be looking at the most beautiful coconut tree in Hawaii, and it looked like a demon to me. Wow. It was bad. It was super bad. And I could literally hear them. I could hear their voices, like closing in on me.
And you couldn't stop because you were physically addicted to
I was physically addicted by now. There's nothing that I could. And then it got to the point where I missed my kids so much. I was gone for like a couple of years. But I missed my kids so much. I only had $18 to my name. And I ended up moving back to Oahu because I needed to be closer to my kids. I was a hot mess, okay, when I moved back to Oahu.
What were you doing during those 2 years?
I was actually working. I was working in a restaurant. And then it got to the point where all the voices in the restaurant were talking at me. And I couldn't handle it anymore. So I quit.
Because of the drugs?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was working, and then I quit because of that. And then I decided I needed to be back with my children. I went from my sister's house to my cousin's house, to my other cousin's house, to my other cousin's house, to my auntie's house. And I ended up with this guy who is actually my sister's ex-husband's brother. Okay. So my sister's brother-in-law. Okay. And their little brother is my classmate. And I ended up with this guy, and I just didn't feel safe anywhere I went, because not only did I have my addiction, but I was also being followed because of my mom's drug dealings on the Big Island and all the associates that I had. My mom told me that I needed to stop doing drugs because I was going out of my mind. But once she got arrested and she saw her file, she told me everything that I told her was right. And I knew I was seeing what I was seeing. You know, helicopters flying over my house. And I mean, it was just crazy, the stuff that was going on. Wow. Okay. So I go back to Oahu. I'm living with my auntie. God's kind of using her to tell me I need to quit, you know, but I can't. I'm physically addicted, right? And then I'm with my boyfriend and stuff. We're basically homeless, living out of his truck. And I'm trying to get back to my kids, but I don't know how. You know what I mean? And I'm in no condition to have my kids. Right.
When's the last time you had seen them up until this point?
Well, I used to fly them up to the Big Island every Christmas break and stuff to spend time with me.
Oh, so you know,
because I was making good money waitressing.
Okay.
I would come home with like $250 a night.
Oh, wow.
But I go up to Oahu, and he's now my former boyfriend. Him and his friends ended up stealing this car. And because of all the scary things that was happening to me, like I was super codependent, like he could not be out of my sight or I would literally have a panic attack. Okay. And you know, when you're on the dark side of the street, anything bad that can happen is going to happen. So my wallet got stolen. I didn't have my ID, and I needed to go to town to get my ID. And instead of catching the bus, I wanted to take this car because it was going to get me there and get me back to him faster. The car was being watched, and literally 10 seconds after driving this car, I was eating the pavement and being arrested for driving a stolen vehicle.
Did you know it was stolen?
I knew it was stolen.
Oh, okay.
I didn't steal it, but I
Yeah,
knew
yeah.
it was stolen. And in my mind, I was like, I didn't steal it, but like, hello, of course it's bad to be driving a stolen vehicle. Hello,
You're the one driving it. Yeah.
right? And so I end up in the prison that my ex-husband works at.
Oh my gosh.
No.
To God be the glory. Okay. But let me tell you this. Once that happened, once I had I've never been arrested in my whole life. Okay. And I thought, they're going to let me out. I got arrested on Friday. They're going to let me out on Monday. Wrong. Because driving a stolen vehicle is a felony. I did not know that. So I went to prison. I went to the prison that he works at. Okay. And when I got there, you talk about being afraid, because I did not think that I had it in me. I thought, the Bible tells you God will only give you what you can handle. And I thought God knew I couldn't handle being in prison, which is why I never ended up there. Well, evidently I could, because that's where I ended up. But, the lesson was God sent me people to warn me. He did the kinder, gentler way. Okay. But I didn't listen. And that's how God is. He disciplines those that he loves. And because I didn't do the kinder, gentler way, he had to do the hard way. Okay. So I had to get a probation officer. I had to learn the hard way, be accountable, go to rehab and all that to get clean and sober. Okay. This August 22 is going to be 14 years clean and sober. Okay. Yeah. And it's all because of him. So I went to rehab. I got my life together. And of course, when I was locked up, they reveled in it. My ex-husband and his wife just reveled in it, and he kind of laughed in my face. I did have a crossing with him because I had called out to court one day, and I was waiting to be taken back into the module where the women are held. And he saw me and he just laughed in my face and he was like, "What are you doing here?" But by then God already had me. Like I hate to admit this, but in that prison, I have never, ever, ever been closer to God. You ain't got nothing to distract you because you have absolutely no rights. You have no decisions to make. You have to ask to go and pee. Okay. So even the little things, you have no cell phone to distract you. You can call out, you can use the phone for 5 minutes 3 times a week. And, so there's nothing, all you have is God in there, I spent my birthday in there. I spent Mother's Day in there, and I spent my daughter's birthday in there. And God knew the perfect time, because let me tell you, that was painful. There is never a Mother's Day that goes by that I don't pray for the incarcerated women, or or Father's Day for the incarcerated men, because I know that pain. Okay. And so while I was there were churches that would come in, and one of them was New Hope Oahu. And I absolutely, the worship music, everything, just, I loved it.
So you started going to church after you got out of prison.
Oh yeah,
and it was through the ministries that came into the church,
right?
Okay, and you started going to New Hope.
It took me a year. It took me a year after I got out to get there, because Waimanalo, it's like a 2-hour bus ride to get to where New Hope Oahu is. And I was still, even though I quit alcohol, drugs, and all that, the last thing I needed to quit was cigarettes. And they tell you in rehab, you don't quit everything one time because you're going to end up relapsing. And cigarettes is usually the last thing to go. But I didn't want to go to church smelling like cigarettes. So I would like smoke my morning cigarette, go take a shower, and then that way I smell good, and then I would
afterwards
smoke. And then after church, I would catch the bus into downtown, and then I would have my first cigarette there after church. Okay. But from going to New Hope Oahu, that's when I found out about Camp Agape. I volunteered for this ministry called Life Change that basically cleanses you of things. It's so Holy Spirit driven. You didn't even realize, you think there's a lot of things you nailed to the cross, but you didn't, and God reveals it to you.
So in that was probably a good thing that you did, because you probably had so much to process. I mean,
I did.
with your mom,
right?
the relationship you're with your ex-husband.
Oh, yeah.
The relationship you had with your kid. What was the relationship with your kids at this point?
Oh, God is so good. There's that scripture that says the first will become last and the last will become first.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically I was last in my children's lives. In my addiction and all that, Once I got clean and sober, in fact, even before that, once I got locked up, I was on fire. And people are like, yeah, you just like that because you're locked up. You watch when you get out. No ways. That door is not going to hit my butt on the way out. I'm going to hit the ground running. I was in my Bible so much that our cube, because it was all bunk beds. Yeah, there were 3 bunk beds in each cube. Our cube became known as the Holy Cube.
That's awesome.
And then even after I left, it still was the Holy Cube. And I would bump into some of the women when I got out. But I was in my word. It became my drug. Like I was literally just eating it up. You know what I mean? And when I got released, I had so much joy and so much gratitude because God blessed me when I was in there. Miracles that God did for me when I was in there.
Give me an example.
So I'm telling you, the number one thing that you're going to want if you get locked up is food. Like I want Pizza Hut, I want Baskin and Robbins, I want KFC, I want, all this stuff because the food sucks in there. And right across the street, there's this restaurant that would fry up their chicken at 10 o'clock every morning.
You would smell
and
it.
The wind would bring it in and I'd be like, oh, I want fried chicken.
I want fried chicken right now.
So anyways, the only ID I had on me, because I lost my wallet, right, was a old license that had my maiden name. So you go by your last name in prison. Cornelius was my maiden name. Mm-hmm. So this one girl, she's been in prison for the longest time. Okay. And this is like maybe her 5th round coming in and out. You know what, Cornelius? Shut up already. You're not going to have fried chicken. They're never going to make fried chicken over here. I don't know why you keep talking about fried chicken. And so on my birthday, for the first time, because she's like, I've been here 2 years. They never did have fried chicken. Okay. On my birthday for lunch, we had fried chicken. Fried chicken. Evidently, there was a new chef that came in. Some Filipino man, God bless him. God knows who he is. And please, Lord, I want to meet him when you come back. Not only that, but there was a piece of chocolate cake. There was cake. We never get cake. You get birthday? Like this watered down, chopped up chicken with like some kind of watery soup with cabbage, and it's just nasty. Okay? It's horrible what they would feed us in there. But we had fried chicken and we had cake. I even had my favorite cereal in the morning. And when I saw that fried chicken and I grabbed my plate and I sat down to get ready to eat, before I sat down, I called her out. I said, Suki. She goes, what? I go, fried chicken. I said, that's the power of prayer, okay?
Love that. That is, you know what? That is awesome because I've said it all the time. You can see if you're looking and if you really want God, he will reveal himself in.
That was my birthday present from God.
And then that was just a way that it seems silly, but it's not.
It's not.
That's
and
real.
I know that was God. But, so anyways, from there, after rehab, God was doing amazing things, and the first became last and the last became first. My kids, I would catch the bus to go to New Hope, Oahu. I would go the opposite direction because they were living with grandma and grandpa at the time. I would call them.
Oh, they weren't living. So they weren't
not yet. Not when I got out.
Well, but they weren't living with their dad.
No, well, they were at first. But they were just moving all over the place. And it was really hard because for my daughter, you got to catch the bus at 5 a.m. to be at school by 7.
Oh, okay.
And
so
then,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they were living with grandma and grandpa. Thank God for mom and dad, and I thank God that I did not tarnish
they were living
their
with your
name.
Mom not your.
No, they were
grandparents.
living with his mom and dad.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the Achongs.
Okay.
And I thank God, like God knew it would totally bother me for their name to be tarnished for something that I did. It was meant to be that I didn't have my ID, and all they had was my old driver's license with my maiden name on it.
Oh, because they were Cornelius. and
Right.
that. Okay.
And it was good that, you know, that's the way it should be. It was me. It had nothing to do with them, you know.
So, but then when you got out, you were going to church. You took them
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
And they gave their lives to
So
God.
we would catch the bus and they would hop on to the bus that I was on, and then we would go together. And then until God blessed me with a free car.
Oh, nice.
And how's this? Because God has a sense of humor. Like literally, one of my friends.
It was that stolen car.
It wasn't that stolen car, but it was the exact year,
Same
make, and
model?
model. Yeah, and color. It was a '99 white Acura Integra.
That's
It was a
crazy.
beautiful, and I got it for free.
You're tripping, right?
I was just like, you are hilarious, Lord. You're like seriously hilarious. I have no shame in my game. I have no problem telling people anything what I did. We just don't have enough time. But the thing is, I did it all, knowing that God
We
saw
got 8 minutes.
everything that I did. Knowing that God saw everything that I did. I was purposely turning my back on him, you know? And let me tell you something. All you got to do is read the Bible. There is a prostitute in the genealogy of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
One of the two people that saw the risen Christ, one of them was a prostitute. Like, he does not care what you have done.
He's for everybody.
You can't surprise him. He created you. He sees everything that we go through, and he knows, and he loves you anyway. My pastor used to say, he loves you just the way you are. He welcomes you just the way you are, but he loves you too much to leave you that way. You cannot help. When you get touched by Christ, you cannot help but change. You cannot help but change. And it's always for the good. You know, now, all of these, I call them districts of hell. All of these districts of hell I've been to: child abuse, addiction, divorce, abortion, prostitution. I didn't get to touch on that, but you do all kinds of stuff for your habit. You know, separation from your children, incarceration, mental institutionalization. You get to go back to these districts of hell and help Jesus save people
that are in those.
Yes. You have that compassion now. You know what these, I mean, I can sit there and talk to a crazy person on the street because that used to be me. You know what I mean?
And there was a lot of the choices that you made that you brought on yourself. Some things were done to you, obviously, but the grace of God at this stage of the game has pulled you out of it. And you can share that with someone that's in that same position that maybe you were at that time in your life.
And it's all about hope. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on, you know, I like to tell the women in prison, it's kind of like, you know, we're going to have this battle, right? Because the enemy doesn't want us to get to the victory. But it's just like Sarah Connor. Lisa Bevere talks about this all the time.
From Terminator?
From Terminator. Who was she?
Sarah Connor, come with me
She
if you want
was
to live.
nobody. She was...
Are you Sarah Connor?
She was nobody. She was a waitress with a boring life, okay? So why did the Terminator come after her? Because he knew her purpose in the future.
Powerful.
And that's what our enemy knows. The enemy knows the plans that God has for you. And that's the reason why he wants you locked up. He wants you with this abusive boyfriend. He wants you with this addiction because you're lost. You don't even know what day it is, let alone what the plans God has for your life. You know, it could be something as silly as you're stuck watching TV all day, or, you know, God forbid, pornography addiction, whatever it is that he's got you distracted, he just needs to get you distracted, okay? And I finally, like, from that little girl that was terrified of all of the ghosts and spirits that I saw, all the terrifying things that I saw as an addict, okay? And the thing is, now I saw something on Facebook. You want to be the kind of woman that when your feet hit the ground, when you get up in the morning, you want the devil to go, uh-oh, she's up.
Nice.
Exactly. Now he can run from me, okay?
That's
because
sick.
I have the word of God. I have the sword of truth, and I'm going to stab you, brah. You need to get out of my way. Get lost.
That's powerful. I love that.
And to see the weakling that I was, like anxiety, bipolar, all of these things that was going on, schizoaffective and, an addict. And so that's what this God has, if you woke up this morning, whoever is listening to this, if you woke up this morning, it's because God can still use you.
Amen.
It's because God has a purpose for you, okay? The minute your purpose is done, he's going to take you home to glory. Mission accomplished, you get to come home, okay? In some cases, like my little sister, she didn't quite make it, okay? Her existence on earth was so miserable, but because God is love, he took her out of her misery. You know what I mean? But we get to be part of that plan,
Bringing the kingdom here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Kingdom's at hand.
Hope, because this world is hopeless. This world will pull you down, chew you up, spit you out, because we know the Bible says Satan and his demons, right, are the rulers. They're not the creator, but they're the rulers for now. He knows his time is up, So I'm not perfect. I tell people, that's why I go to church, because I need help. You do not want, Natasha minus Jesus, you do not want, okay? It's a very scary person. And I will cut you with my words. And I will, I'm horrible. I'm absolutely horrible without him.
Well, Natasha, that was powerful. You got me pumped up right now.
Yeah, God is good.
And that's your story, your experiences that you had, that you went through. And some people might be listening, like, oh dang, that some crazy stuff going on. But that's your life that you went through, and I'm glad that you came on and shared it. There's a lot there, and I think on this side of it, I'm glad I know the Natasha with Jesus.
Oh, yeah. And I know a lot of people.
She would have took you out front. Yeah. She would have took you out in the yard.
I know a lot of people that have been through worse. But you know what? Jesus didn't die for us to be victims. He died for us to be victorious.
Yeah, amen.
But you need to claim that. You need to crack open your Bible and read about it.
Yeah.
And just everything you've been talking about, it kind of, when we came in here, I asked you about, so you sing, you've sung, that's a gift that God gave you, is your voice. You gave us a little sample earlier, and the song, I asked you what was your jam, and you said Reckless Love.
Oh, yeah.
And that, it's perfect. It kind of, for me, it's like, that's perfect for what you went through. Because all the stuff that you went through, God recklessly loved you.
Yep.
And I was just hoping you can give us a little taste as we go out.
I love the bridge. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Natasha.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.